Today, millions of people line up every year just to see it for a split second behind bulletproof glass. But more than 100 years ago, the Mona Lisa completely vanished. And for 2 years, nobody in the world knew where it was. Leonardo da Vinci began painting it around 1503, using a technique called sfumato. Layers of paint so thin and translucent that the smile seems to change depending on the angle you look at it from. He brought it with him to France years later, and when he died, King Francis I kept the work. For years, the painting passed from hand to hand among French royalty. Napoleon Bonaparte even hung it on the wall of his own bedroom, before it finally ended up in the Louvre, where it had already hung for over a century by the time of the theft. On August 21, 1911, a painter arrived at the Louvre with the usual permit to copy the Mona Lisa. But on the wall where it should have been, he found only 4 empty hooks. At first, nobody panicked. They figured it had been moved to be photographed, as happened from time to time. The most famous painting in the museum had no alarm, no protective glass, not a single camera watching it. The thief was Vincenzo Peruggia, an Italian handyman who months earlier had worked installing the museum's protective glass cases, including, ironically, the one on the Mona Lisa itself. Peruggia was convinced that Napoleon had stolen Italian art and that this painting belonged back in Italy. The night before the theft, Peruggia hid inside a supply closet in the museum and waited for the doors to close. The next morning, with the museum nearly empty, he took the painting off the wall, removed the frame and glass on a staircase, and hid the painting under his work coat. When he reached the exit, he found the door locked. So he asked a passing plumber for help opening it and walked right out the front door. The frame and protective glass weighed far more than Peruggia expected. He had to pause halfway down the service staircase, his heart pounding, before finally getting them off. The news exploded within hours. Thousands of Parisians lined up to see, not the painting, but the empty wall where it used to hang. During those days, more people came to see the 4 hooks than had come to see the painting in years. The Louvre left the empty space on public display for weeks. Some people even left flowers in front of the wall, almost like it was a funeral. Newspapers offered rewards, published cartoons, and songs were even written about the theft. For weeks, nobody in Europe was talking about anything else. The scandal was so big that the director of the Louvre ended up resigning, and several employees were fired over the lack of security. Thanks to the Telegraph, the news crossed the ocean within hours. Some media historians consider the Mona Lisa theft one of the first truly global news stories of the modern era. Peruggia left the empty frame and the protective glass hidden on a service staircase, where they were found hours later. The only physical clue police had to start their investigation. Police called in Alphonse Bertillon, the father of modern criminal identification. They found a clear fingerprint on the abandoned frame. But they only had Peruggia's right thumbprint on file, and the one he left was from his left thumb. They let him go without ever knowing. Meanwhile, more than 100 people showed up at police stations confessing to the theft. None of them had the painting. It was simply the most famous crime in Europe, and everyone wanted to be part of the story. With police desperate, they interrogated hundreds of suspects, including a young painter named Pablo Picasso, flagged because an acquaintance of his had previously sold stolen statuettes from the Louvre itself. He was released for lack of evidence, but the scandal followed him for months. That acquaintance, Géry Pierret, had sold Picasso small stolen Iberian sculptures from the Louvre years earlier. According to many art historians, those pieces directly influenced the faces in one of his most important works, Les Demoiselles d'Avignon. While the world searched for the original, legend has it that a con man named Eduardo de Valfierno took advantage of the chaos to sell several forged copies to American collectors, each one convinced they had the real Mona Lisa hidden in their home. Today, many historians doubt the story is entirely true. But for decades, it captured the world's imagination. Months passed, then years. With no new leads, the Mona Lisa theft became one of the most famous unsolved mysteries in the world. Until, almost by accident, everything changed. Peruggia kept the painting hidden in a trunk with a false bottom in his own Paris apartment for nearly 2 years, living inches away from the most wanted artwork on the planet. In 1913, he worked up the nerve, traveled to Florence, and contacted an antiques dealer, Alfredo Geri, offering to return the Mona Lisa to Italy in exchange for money. Geri alerted the director of the Uffizi Gallery, and together they set a trap. Before calling the police, The Uffizzi's director compared tiny cracks on the painting's surface with photographs of the original. When they matched exactly, he knew he had the real Mona Lisa in his hands. Perugia was arrested. The Mona Lisa, unharmed, returned to the Louvre amid a national celebration, turned, thanks to the theft, into the most famous artwork in history. In Italy, he was treated like a patriotic hero. The trial was quick, and the sentence surprisingly short. Just over 7 months in prison. Many Italians sincerely believed Perugia had done the right thing. During the trial, Perugia insisted he only wanted to give Italy back what belonged to it. Journalists from half the world packed the courtroom to hear him. The theft permanently changed how museums protect their artwork. Alarms, constant surveillance, and reinforced display cases became the standard worldwide, not just at the Louvre. Before the theft, the Mona Lisa was admired by experts, but it was just one painting among thousands at the Louvre. Today, it hangs behind bulletproof, reinforced glass, watched by cameras 24 hours a day, and every year more than 6 million people visit just to see it for a moment. In 1962, it was insured for $100 million just to exhibit it in the United States, a figure that today would be worth nearly $1 billion. But in reality, the Louvre considers it priceless. You simply can't insure the invaluable. Today, most visitors spend barely 30 seconds in front of it, surrounded by hundreds of phones. A fame so massive that sometimes it's hard to even see it properly. There's something ironic about all this. If Vincenzo Perugia had never stolen it, the Mona Lisa would probably be just another painting today, admired by experts but unknown to everyone else. The theft that almost lost it forever is exactly what turned it into a legend. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe for more.